Today we will read the first part of Psalm 63. We are beginning a new series that will help us grow in our faith and support us when we have doubts. Too often we settle for a long-distance relationship with God, when James tells us that if we draw near to God, He will draw near to us. King David expresses in Psalm 63 the close relationship he had developed with God and will guide our thoughts about faith, belief, and what we know about God. Follow along with me as I start at verse 1 of Psalm 63. O God, you are my God. Earnestly I seek you. My soul thirsts for you. My flesh faints for you, as in a dry and weary land where there is no water. So I have looked upon you in the sanctuary, beholding your power and glory. Because your steadfast love is better than life, my lips will praise you. So I will bless you as long as I live. In your name, I will lift up my hands.
So, who was here last week to hear Wade's sermon? He did a great job, didn't he? Okay, I'm going to share something with you that I would never in a million years dreamed. Wade, you picked the exact same passage I was going to preach on today. What is that? Of all the passages in Scripture, Wade beat me to it. So when I was listening to his sermon, I was like, oh no. But I can't change. And so I was like, all right, Lord, what's going on? What do you have? Well, the reality is that the passage that Wade preached on last week is actually a great intro for really my whole series, because I'm going to be referring back to the story that he preached on throughout this whole series. And so if you missed it, I encourage you to go back and listen to it. It's a great sermon and it gives a great background. I'm going to kind of summarize it again. So I'll just give you some of the highlights. And then Psalm 63 is one of my favorite Psalms, and it kind of does highlight a lot of the points I want to make. So I focused in on that a little bit more for today. But Mark chapter 9 has the story of a young boy that is tormented by evil spirits, and he is healed. Now, this is a story that is found in Matthew and also in Luke, but Matthew and Luke share just kind of summaries of the story. They're only about 5 or 6 verses long, and the emphasis really goes into a lot of what Wade preached on last week, which is this unbelieving generation that is encouraged to step into their faith and to believe in a God that can accomplish all things. But the Mark version of this is 14 verses long. It's a little bit longer. And there's a conversation that's taking place with Jesus, with a father who has a son that he has not known what to do or how to help or how to journey with, and is desperate. And he comes to Jesus. We don't know his name. We don't know the name of the boy. We know that there's a crowd around, that the disciples are there, that the father is there with his son, that the scribes are also there, and they're all arguing when Jesus comes up and asks what's going on. Well, it turns out that this father came to the disciples, was trying to ask the disciples to pray over his son, to bring healing to his son, to cast out the evil spirits that have been tormenting him. And the disciples weren't able to do it. So there's arguing going on over what's the truth and how to do this. And it's just kind of almost a chaotic scene that Jesus kind of walks into. And I just want to highlight when I put myself in each of the shoes or sandals, if you will, of the people involved, I get a sense of desperation. We have a desperate father. Dads, have you ever felt desperate about your children? Moms, have you ever been in a place of desperation? What do I do? I don't know what to do. What do I do? I need help. I don't know how to fix this. I don't know how to carry this for my child. A desperate father. Desperate disciples. Why is this not working? Have we not been given authority to do this, to provide, to bring healing, to cast out demons? Jesus gave us authority to do this. It's not working. Why isn't it working? Uh-oh. Did I do something wrong? Am I not getting it right? Have you ever felt that there's certain things that you should be able to pray for, certain things you should be able to do in your faith, and then it's not working, and you're like, oh, is it me? Is it my prayer life? Is it because of my sin? But what's going on? There's times in our journey where we feel desperate because things aren't working the way we expect them to. And we grow anxious. We start to have doubts. We start to hesitate in our confidence. And so Jesus walks into this circumstance where people are desperate and they're not sure what the truth is or what to believe in. And Jesus says, oh, faithless, unbelieving generation. And he says, how long am I to bear with you? That statement makes me cringe. Because I always picture Jesus with great forbearance and great patience and forgiving over and over and over again and welcoming me back into his loving arms. And I don't picture Jesus like, oh, how long do I have to deal with you? And maybe I'm adding a tone here that's not there. But there's a sense of ooh, how long am I going to have to bear with you in your unbelief? In my college years, I came to a point of desperation in my journey of faith. And this story, I don't even remember how this story came into my mind. I don't know if it was from a devotion. As I'm looking back, I remember I was in my car, but I don't know if it was because some girl broke my heart or for whatever reason. I'm in my car. I know I'm driving to work, and I'm feeling desperate. I feel like I'm a horrible Christian. Whatever it might be, this story popped into my mind. Now, I don't know if I heard a sermon on it or I'd recently had spent time in Scripture and read about it, but for some reason, this story in Mark popped into my mind. And there was kind of a truth bomb that stood out. And it only shows up in Mark's version, so that's the version I'm focusing on here. And it really helped me to kind of come to terms with where my faith was at. That I had belief. I know I believed in God, but man, I was struggling and I had unbelief. There are two aspects to our faith. One is an objective aspect to it, where we know that our faith is in a person and in an event. In the person of Jesus Christ and his death on the cross 3 days later, rising again from the grave, that brings forgivenesses of sins. It renews our relationship with God. We have a very objective person and event that our faith is in. It's very intellectual. It solves the problem of evil and sin in our world. But there's a subjective aspect to our faith as well. Subjectively, our faith gets mixed with feelings and emotions that sometimes create hesitancy and doubt. And if you base your faith on your feelings, then when you feel good and you feel close to God, you feel like your faith is strong. But then when you don't feel close to God, then your faith is weak. And we can't base our faith and the evaluation of our faith on our feelings, because our feelings are constantly changing. The subjective aspect of our faith is always changing. It's like a roller coaster, ups and downs. But the object, the firm foundation, the rock on which we stand is this idea, this concept grounded in history, grounded in a person, and grounded in an event. Now, our faith has both. You can't just choose one or the other. It's nice when our emotions also are in alignment with our thoughts and our beliefs and our intellect. The story of this father coming to Jesus is introducing this idea. He says to Jesus, "But if you can do anything, have compassion on us and help us." Notice the word if. But if you can do anything, have compassion on us. I've heard about you, Jesus. I don't know if it's true. But if you can, then will you please show compassion on us? He has an intellectual understanding of a little bit of who Jesus is through reputation, but he doesn't really know or trust because of that word if. And oftentimes we use that word when we come to the Lord. If you can, Lord, if you will. But I don't know if you can or you will. The response, this is the verse that stood out to me in my car as I'm driving along. I'm at a place of desperation. Okay, it just looks really small in the back. Now I understand what you meant, Wade, when you said, that looks really small. Jesus says to this father, if you can. If you can. Now, I like to put tone into this. It's not written with tone. There's no little squiggle mark that shows, what kind of tone Jesus is using. But the tone I hear is like, what? If I can? What? If I can? If you can, all things are possible for one who believes. And then immediately the father of the child cries out, well, I believe, but help my unbelief. I believe, help my unbelief. This is really what the series is going to look at for this week. This month, the next 4 weeks. Yes, I believe, but do I actually live that out? Yes, I believe, but I need help with my unbelief. There's a book by Craig Rochelle. It's a book called The Christian Atheist, Believing in God, but Living Like He Doesn't Exist. We believe God exists, but we live as if He doesn't exist. In other words, there's a disconnect oftentimes between what we say intellectually or verbally, but a lot of times it doesn't actually show up in our walk, in our daily life. And so there's a disconnect sometimes of what we believe intellectually, but our heart is often struggling. We believe in God, but do we actually know God? And so I've taken some different chapters and ideas from this book by Craig Rochelle, and I think it's going to help us in this journey of growing in our faith and our unbelief. And in his book, he talks about the difference between believing and knowing. Believing in God and knowing God. I believe that God is real, but the question is that good enough? I believe in God, but do I know God? And he shares these different levels of intimacy that comes when we know God. So let me give you an example. In my life, probably the person who knows me the best is my wife. Claire knows me better than anybody else. It took a while to get there, though. We didn't get married till I was 29, and so I went through college and seminary before I met Claire, and kind of met Claire at the end of that. During vacation time, I would go spend time with family, and I noticed that every time I would go be with family, there was a sense of comfort and being easy because my family knew me. I didn't have to pretend to be someone else. I didn't have to put on a mask. I didn't have to put on my best self. In fact, probably my worst self showed up every time I was with, because they already knew me. They already knew they knew me as a baby, as a child. I'm the youngest of four, so I'm the youngest in the family. So my whole life, they knew me probably better than I knew myself. But now, if I hung out with my family, they still know me, but they don't know me actually as much as Claire knows me now. Because after 20 years, it's a nice round number. It's easy to remember. Whew. After 20 years, she knows me. The good, the bad. We've gone through great times. I have failed her as a husband. She's seen me with great times as a dad and also very poor times as a dad. And she still loves me. She still cares. She knows me a lot better than my family does, because over the last 20 years, she spent more time with me than my family has. Now, my relationship with Claire, though, just started with reputation. And this is the first level that Craig talks about. There's 3 different levels he shares, intimacy levels. And the first one is really knowing someone just by reputation. A friend of mine who was also in youth ministry and a director of a youth camp, and I used to take my students as a youth pastor to his camp. I got to know him well. He always he liked to play matchmaker. So he started talking up this girl to me, saying that there was this really cool, fun Christian girl who was growing in her faith and really had things, going well. She had a great job. She was a go-getter, and he was like, Tony, you should get to know this girl. So he started to create a story in my mind, a picture in my mind of this person. She started to get a reputation with me based off of his stories. A big one was like, Tony, she worked at a camp to help kids who were fighting cancer. And I'm like, ooh, okay, I like that. That's very attractive. Okay, reputation was kicking in. All right. So he sets us up on a blind date. He comes with his wife, who happens to be a very close friend, almost best friends with Claire. And of course, most of the first date, I talked to him and she talked to her. And we kind of got to know each other a little bit. I thought she was cute and very nice. Okay. All right. Yeah. Trust me, I'm sure from her perspective, she's like, who is this guy? She's like corporate America, go-getter, and I'm like this surfer dude. Hey, what's up? So I didn't call her for a couple weeks. I learned later that that's a bad idea, by the way, guys. Don't do that. Don't wait that long. So, but I wanted to take it slow, and we kind of went on these dates. As we started to get to know each other, I wanted to get to know her more. And then we started dating. Well, we hung out a lot. I wouldn't call it dating because I had a specific idea about dating. You get to know to see if you want to date. You date to see if you want to get married. I wasn't ready to get married, so we weren't dating. We were just getting to know each other, just hanging out. So we were hanging out. She's like, I'm surprised she stuck around. Such a bizarre guy. Anyway, she stuck around. We started hanging out. I started to get to know her better. And soon, it wasn't just about reputation anymore. I started to get to know who she was. And when we started to get to know who we were, that's when we're like, hey, you know what? I'm ready to get to know you for the rest of our lives. I'm ready to enter that kind of commitment, that kind of intimacy. So it started off with just reputation, and some of us, our relationship with God is still in that point. We've just heard maybe a lot of stories about who God is. The father in the Mark story, by reputation, heard about Jesus. Okay, well, I'm desperate. I don't know who can heal my son. I don't know how to fix my son. Maybe Jesus can, because I've heard he can. And some of us have maybe grown up in the church, and we've heard stories of God. Some of us have maybe dug into Scripture or studied history, and we have an idea of who God is by reputation. But we don't have a relationship with God. We don't have an intimacy with God. We don't have a sense of, I can't wait to get to know you more. So, intimacy level 1. The next level, intimacy level, is kind of knowing in part. Okay, and so in mine and Claire's relationship, that was kind of like dating. We're starting to get to know each other. But there's a lot of things that you don't know until you finally get married. And then you're like, uh-oh. She probably had more uh-oh moments than I did. But I want to focus on friends a little bit. So as I look back at my friendships, I had friends that I had in middle school. Most of those didn't translate into high school. And I had friends in high school that didn't translate necessarily into college. But there were a couple of friends that I realized every time I spent time with them, I would pick up where I left off. And then in college, I thought I had lots of friends in college. And then once we graduated and we all scattered around, I was actually surprised by the ones that we kept in touch. I would have expected to keep in touch with this one and this one, but I actually ended up starting to keep in touch with this one and this one. And these were the ones that every time we communicated, we just kind of picked up where we left off. Even though it was long distance. Maybe if it was only like once or twice a year when we would communicate, it was easy just to pick up where we left off. We continued intimacy and getting to know each other. But most of my friends, I only kind of knew in part. And so a lot of my close friends in high school, a lot of my close friends in college, if I spent time with them now, it would be actually kind of a little awkward because my experience of knowing them is in the past, a long time ago. They don't know me as a father. They don't know me as a husband. They don't know me as a pastor. Probably many of them would be like, wait, you're a pastor? That's not the Tony I knew. And so there's relationships that we kind of get to know people, but over time we don't pick up where we left off, and it becomes just an experience in the past. And a lot of times we have an experience with God in that way. Oh, I experienced God when I was at summer camp, or I experienced God on a mission trip, or, I grew up in the church and I really was close and my confirmation experience was great. But over time, my interests changed, my life changed, I was taken in this direction, I got married or I got kids, or this job was very stressful, and suddenly now God is just someone who I kind of knew in part, who's really a part of my past and not necessarily part of my daily life. And oftentimes it's the desperate times that remind us, oh man, I wish I could have that close relationship with God like I did before. We are known in part and knew in part, but not fully. And so then the next intimacy level that Craig talks about is knowing someone deeply, very intimately, a growing relationship, where you're knowing someone and you continue to know someone, and as you grow in your deepening of knowing, you grow in your trust of that person because you know them. And as you grow in that trust, it's easier to love them because you trust them. It's easy to love someone you trust. It's very difficult to love someone you don't trust. When Jesus says, love your enemies, I don't trust my enemies. How do you love someone you don't trust? That's a very difficult thing to do. But those who we trust, those who we know well, and those who we trust and we love more and more deeply. As you get to know someone over a lifetime, you trust them over a lifetime, and you love them over a lifetime. Our culture doesn't understand that. Marriage is about me, relationships are about me, and then when it doesn't satisfy me anymore, I walk away from that relationship. I get a divorce, I experience this, or I move on to the next person that can satisfy my needs. I no longer get to know them, I no longer trust them, and I miss out on what a deepening, loving relationship over a lifetime is meant to be. This is how our relationship with God is supposed to be. Knowing God more and more, trusting God more and more, and loving God more and more. Oftentimes when the desperate times come, we don't know what to do, and so we rely on God. Oftentimes just by reputation, but ultimately we want to reach that point of trusting in God deeply so that when those desperate times come, it's not even a question. How can we know God more intimately? And this is where our passage in Psalm 63 is going to guide us. I really want to encourage us to, over these next 4 weeks that we're looking at belief and unbelief and the relationship of that, how can we continue to keep growing in our intimate relationship with God? And the key part of it is spending time with God. Knowing someone comes with spending time with them. It seems like a very simple concept, but it's one that we often overlook or miss. We get to know someone by spending time with them. The more we spend time with them, the more we get to know them. How often do you spend time with God? Is it just on Sunday mornings? Do you spend time with God daily in a devotional? Have you reached the point, man, the people who have grown in their faith and who are so close to God. They had that close, intimate walk with the Lord. It's usually after a lifetime of just spending time with God throughout the day and acknowledging that He's there. Well, Psalm 63, written by David, who is known as being a person after God's own heart, we see a lot of the intimacy that David had with the Lord because he wrote a lot of the Psalms, not most of them. And so we see this knowing of God, this intimate knowing of God through the heart expression of David. And in Psalm 63, he's expressing this deep relationship he has through the good and the bad of his journey. In Psalm 63, verse 1, he says, "O God, you are my God. Earnestly I seek you. My soul thirsts for you. My flesh faints for you, as in a dry and weary land where there is no water." Notice how he says, "My God." "Oh God, you are my God." Not, "Oh God, you are the creator. Oh God, you are the God of the universe." You are my God. There's a sense of ownership with that. Doesn't mean that we own God, but it's kind of like almost like a belonging. Like when I talk about Claire, she is my wife. She's not an object that I own, but she's mine. She's nobody else's, she's mine. And there's a sense of intimacy and belonging there. The boys are my boys. For better or worse, right, guys? They're my boys. They're not anybody else's, they're mine. They belong to me, and I belong to them. There's a sense of ownership and belonging that David is expressing toward God. You are my God. You aren't just the God of the universe, you're my God. I belong to you, and you belong to me. You are my God, and I seek after you. Oh man, I want to get to know this person. I can't get enough of getting to know this person. Oh man, I want to spend the rest of my life with this person. Earnestly, I seek after you. I want to know you. My soul thirsts for you. Okay, so I'm going to commit to spending time with you. God, I want to know you more. I don't want to just believe in you intellectually. I want to know you and trust you so that I can love you the way you love me. We can all commit to spending time with God, to getting to know them. Some of us, I want to encourage you, those of us who have known God in the past, had an experience, but you have not been able to pick up where you left off. I want to encourage you to recommit to knowing. Recommit to knowing God when your relationship with God is in the past tense. Oh yeah, I know God. I encountered Him when I was a child. Oh yeah, I know God. I remember when I grew up in the church, I had this experience with Him. I want you to know God because of how you experienced Him today and how you're going to experience Him tomorrow. David, in his psalm, he says, I've looked upon you in the sanctuary. He's talking about the past tense. I've looked upon you in the sanctuary, beholding your power and glory. I've seen how you work. I see you and your love and your expression. And when I'm in the sanctuary, I can see everything that you've done, and I can't help but want to know more. So those are supposed to help us to pursue God even more, not to then separate us because of life circumstances. So today's a good day to maybe recommit if your relationship with God is in the past tense. And the last thing is commit to a lifelong growing in love. Don't just be okay with where your relationship is with God. If I was a great counselor, which I'm not, and those of you who are married, I would say, don't be okay with where your marriage is today. Keep pursuing your spouse. When you stop dating your spouse, you stop showing interest to get to know them. I'll tell you what, Claire is getting to know me more and more and has lots to get to know because I keep changing on her. I'm actually growing up a little bit. I'm maturing some. She has to get to know this guy again who isn't just this weird surfer dude that They don't like responsibility, and they don't want to have anything to do with being a pastor. Now she's got to, now I got to get to know this pastor who's my husband. You know, I find that we are getting to know each other more and more as we grow and mature, and there's always more to figure out and find out about each other. It is a lifelong commitment that we have made to each other. We want to get to know God in that way because we want to love God the way he loves us. So David in his psalm in verse 3 and 4, he says, your steadfast love is better than life. He's gotten to experience God's love in such a way that there is nothing in life that compares to it. Your love is better than life. Nothing can compare. How did he get to know God's love? Well, if you read about David's story, he experiences God's love, his forgiveness, his blessing in ways that we could never even imagine. Your steadfast love is better than life. My lips will praise you, so I will bless you as long as I live. In your name I will lift up my hands. The greatest commandment, according to Jesus, is to love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. This is the greatest commandment. If it's the greatest commandment, this is what we want to pursue. Are we loving God with all our heart, mind, soul, and strength? It's hard to love someone if you don't know them. We want to fulfill this great commandment of loving God. When we love God, it's amazing how other things are going to start to fall into place. Loving God and loving our neighbor as ourselves. So let's not settle for what we know about God, always positioning ourselves to get to know more, so that when we find ourselves in a desperate situation, we already know that all things are possible for those who believe because we know our God. Let me pray for us.
Our God is so good. May you have eyes to see how God's goodness has shown up in your life. May he bring up stories, memories, places where he's revealed himself to you so that you can know and be inspired to continue to pursue God more intimately. May you know God as friend and as Father, all to God's glory. Amen. Thank you for joining us today.